911, what's your emergency? Trainer down. Orca has the trainer. We need help now. It was supposed to be a flawless performance, a breathtaking display of trust between human and animal. But something went terribly wrong. What began as a routine show ended in unimaginable tragedy. This is the story of Maris Ellington, a respected orca trainer whose final moments left a permanent scar on the world of marine entertainment. Before we begin, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share the story so we can keep bringing you powerful documentaries like this one. Let's dive in. Maris Ellington wasn't just another marine mammal trainer. From childhood, she had been captivated by the ocean. While most kids collected seashells, Maris was memorizing the names of every species of whale and dolphin. She could mimic their calls by age 10. By 16, she was volunteering at her local aquarium, asking questions no one else thought to ask. By 24, she had earned a biology degree with honors, specializing in marine behavior. But it wasn't the academic accolades that set her apart. It was her ability to connect with the animals, to read them, feel them. Colleagues often said she had an unspoken language with the orcas. They seemed to lean in toward Maris, trust her, respond to her in ways that baffled even veteran trainers. She was recruited by Ocean World's flagship marine park within a year of graduation. Maris rose quickly through the ranks, becoming one of the park's most trusted orca handlers. Visitors remembered her by name. She wasn't just a performer in the pool. She was a protector, a voice, a quiet advocate behind the scenes for better treatment and more enrichment for the whales in her care. Maris believed in coexistence, that humans and these massive predators could share a bond built on respect, not dominance. She often said, "They don't work for us, we work together." But in the world of marine entertainment, not everything is as it appears on stage. Behind the smiles and perfect jumps are complex creatures, intelligent, emotional, sometimes unpredictable. And Maris knew that better than most. But on that day, even she couldn't have known what was coming. Among the orcas at Ocean World, one stood out, a massive 11,000-pound bull named Cairo. Captured off the coast of Iceland as a calf, Cairo had spent over 20 years in captivity. At 23 feet long, he was a commanding presence, muscular, broad-finned, with deep scarring on his flanks from dominance battles with other males. Trainers described him as intelligent, moody, and unpredictable. Cairo had been involved in several close calls over the years, moments when he failed to respond to commands or showed signs of agitation. None resulted in injury, but they were recorded, noted, filed away in incident reports that rarely made it outside the park's internal logs. Experts in marine mammal behavior had long warned that orcas, especially males in captivity, could develop behavioral abnormalities. These animals are used to roaming up to 100 miles a day in the wild, traveling with tight-knit family pods. In a concrete tank, isolated from natural stimuli, frustration builds. Dr. Elaine Satterfield, a renowned marine biologist and former consultant to Ocean World, once stated, "When you remove an animal like an orca from its natural environment, you're not just putting it in a tank, you're putting its mind in a box, and sometimes it breaks." Despite the warnings, Cairo remained a star. He drew crowds, he performed, and most importantly, he trusted Maris. Or at least he had. But in the weeks leading up to that day, something had shifted. Cairo had started floating listlessly at the surface. He was less responsive to trainers. He began jaw-popping more frequently, a known sign of agitation in orcas. The signs were subtle, but they were there. And on the morning of the attack, the surface of the water was calm, deceptively calm. No one knew that beneath it, something was boiling.
It was a bright morning at Ocean World Marine Park. The air buzzed with anticipation as visitors poured into the amphitheater for the midday Orca Spectacular show. Backstage, Maris prepared like she always did, running through her checklist, watching Cairo through the glass as he circled the performance tank, slowly, deliberately. At 11:46 a.m., Maris entered the poolside platform, wetsuit zipped, hair tied back, headset in place. The stadium filled with cheers as Cairo breached the water in a perfect arc. It looked like any other performance. Smooth, rehearsed, routine. But subtle things were off. Cairo hesitated on 2 cues. His tail slaps were more aggressive. Trainers noted it. Maris saw it. Still, she continued, guiding him with practiced movements and calm body language. The bond between them, forged over a decade, was what made her confident. Maybe too confident. At 11:58 a.m., the routine reached a familiar sequence, a close contact maneuver where Maris stood on a submerged platform face to face with Cairo. She extended her arm, a signal for a side swim. According to a witness, she was signaling the Orca when suddenly it just changed. The whale dipped under the surface, then came back up, but not in the right spot. Without warning, Cairo lunged. His jaws closed around Maris's arm, yanking her into the water with terrifying force. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Some thought it was part of the show. Others knew instantly it wasn't. Underwater, a violent struggle began. Trainers scrambled to deploy emergency signals, underwater tone generators designed to interrupt the whale's focus. Cairo ignored them. He held Maris beneath the surface, thrashing, turning, diving. Seconds turned into a minute turned into 2. Rescue protocols were initiated. Staff raced to close emergency gates, others threw nets into the water. Still, he evaded them, surfacing only briefly before diving again with Maris still in his grasp. At 12:08 p.m., the emergency dive team arrived, but protocol dictated they could not enter while the Orca was actively aggressive. They waited, helpless, watching as the water churned and then fell still. Finally, at 12:08 p.m., Cairo released her. Staff pulled Maris's body from the water. She was unresponsive. Paramedics attempted CPR poolside as stunned visitors were ushered from the stands. Children cried. Parents stared, speechless. She was officially pronounced dead at 12:23 p.m. In less than 7 minutes, a celebrated career, a devoted life, and a relationship built over 10 years came to a violent, irreversible end. In the hours following the incident, Ocean World went into immediate lockdown. Scheduled shows were canceled. A short statement was released. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration launched an immediate investigation. Hours of show footage were reviewed frame by frame. Internal logs were examined. Reports from previous incidents involving Cairo were pulled. Incidents the public had never been told about. The autopsy report was brutal. Maris had sustained extensive trauma, fractured ribs, a dislocated shoulder, pulmonary hemorrhaging. The final cause of death was ruled as drowning following prolonged submersion. Once the details leaked to the press, the public response was immediate and fierce. News outlets ran headlines that gripped the nation. Former trainers came forward. One told reporters, "We've been warning about Cairo for years. That whale was showing signs of distress. No one wanted to listen." Protests erupted outside the park entrance. Within days, animal rights groups called for the immediate release of all captive orcas. Social media exploded. Memorials were set up along the park gates, flowers, photos, handwritten letters. The debate was no longer just about a single incident. It became a flashpoint for captivity, for animal rights, for how far we've pushed the line between entertainment and exploitation. The tragedy of Maris Ellington wasn't just a singular event. It was part of a disturbing pattern. Just 10 years ago, Don Brancheau was killed by a male orca named Talikum. The incident led to a federal investigation, a documentary, and a cultural reckoning. Now, a decade later, Maris's death reignited the very same questions. Marine biologists have long warned of the psychological cost captivity places on orcas. In the wild, these animals travel up to 100 miles a day. They hunt, socialize, sing in dialects unique to their pods. In tanks, their world is reduced to concrete walls, a feeding schedule, and a performance routine. Dr. Jen Sorensen, a marine behaviorist, put it plainly: "We've underestimated them. Orcas remember, they grieve, they strategize, they get bored. And when they do, they sometimes lash out. Not because they're monsters, but because they're sentient."
What complicates the picture is the emotional bond trainers form with these animals. They don't see them as ticking time bombs. They see them as partners, as family. But the public began asking, should that risk even exist? At what point does entertainment cross the line into exploitation? Just weeks after the incident, Ocean World announced a complete suspension of all in-water performances with orcas. Trainers were moved to dry stage interactions only. A new department was created to oversee orca enrichment. Outside consultants were brought in to design safer, more ethical programs. But Maris's legacy wasn't written in policy alone. Her family formed the Maris Ellington Foundation to support marine mammal research, fund safety training, and advocate for responsible wildlife stewardship. Donations poured in from around the world. Colleagues described her not as a thrill seeker, but as a caretaker, someone who believed that trust, even between species, was sacred. One former coworker said, "She never treated the whales like tools. She spoke to them like equals. That's what made her special." Maris Ellington's story ended in violence, but her legacy lives in every conversation sparked by her death, every policy reformed, every young scientist inspired, and every orca somewhere given a little more space to live as nature intended. Maris Ellington's story is a somber reminder of the complex relationship between humans and the wild. It's a story of passion, of a woman who gave everything to the creatures she loved. But it's also a story of power, confinement, and the delicate line between trust and danger. Her death forced a global conversation about the choices we make in the name of entertainment, about the cages we build with ignorance, profit, and pride. Can true connection exist in a space built on control? Can we claim to love an animal and yet deny it the freedom that defines its nature? These are not easy questions, but they are necessary ones. Maris didn't die in vain. Her story has inspired a deeper look at how we treat animals in our care. It has driven reform and brought compassion to the forefront. If Maris's story moved you, let that be the beginning. Support marine conservation. Educate yourself on the realities of captivity. Share stories like hers. Speak up for those who cannot. Because behind every performance, behind every glass wall, there is a story, and sometimes it ends in silence. Thank you for watching. If you found this story meaningful, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Your support helps us keep telling the stories that matter, the ones that are too important to forget.